If I bequeath my children $500 million, I've cost them. If you see anything more than that, confiscate what I have overseas and locally here.
Every time Rufai is biased. Every time Rufai is biased. Rufai is obedient. Rufai is this. Rufai is that. Where were you when Rufai and Reuben kept Peter Obi on a hot seat before the election? Where were you when Rufai asked Peter Obi the question people have been doing outside and asked him to his face? Just because of Ayofayoshe has gone to Arise News and he's now be Arise TV. It's not as if maybe Rufai has not been asking people questions. Someone said that Arise News will now be like a lie detector for politicians. As in, like, where you go, you put your hand like this. If you know you have not done this, if you know you've done this, let's look at some of the tough questions Rufai and Reuben have asked Peter Obi in time past, and how Peter Obi gave a diligent answers to them without getting angry. One of the questions was that he was engaged in a money laundering, that he was not paying his tax, that he had a secret business overseas. Reuben and Rufai asked this question. Now let's hear it.
Are you guilty as charged? Because you were named in the latest scandal, Pandora Papers, as one of those involved in setting up a secret company for the purpose of money laundering, illegal purchase of properties overseas, while you were in office as governor of Anambra State.
Well, thank you. Number one is that I'm not guilty. Trust company is a legitimate vehicle used everywhere globally for investment, savings, and estate planning purposes. It's allowed by law everywhere. In my particular case and that of my family, it was done on very valuable advice of our then bankers, Lloyds TSB. This is what they did to all their international clients who operated at the time I lived in the UK. They will help you to see that you formulate a trust company offshore, and that is what we did. This company was never used to launder money before, during, and after till date. So it wasn't used anytime I was in office for anything. Two, it was never used to buy property before I went into office, during the time I was in office, and after time I was in office. It was strictly a trust company that savings and family planning that was strictly used to support our borrowings, which we even invested in this country. And they are facts, they're not things that you can, that's it.
Right.
So,
well, according to confidential information, you have about $500 million squirreled away in the British Virgin Islands and in Switzerland. Can this amount be described as legitimate earnings?
well, I wish, I don't think I would even be here if I had that type of money. But let me tell you, when people banding money or talk about money and size of money here, it's because we're not a productive country. People don't work for their money. So we find it difficult to understand value of money. And I'll take time to explain this to you. Globally today, the world population is 7,750,000,000, out of which only 37.5 million is worth $1 million. That is 0.05%. Only 3 million, which is 0.04%, is worth 10 million. And only 300,000 is worth $25 million, which is 0.004%. So when people call these figures, it's alarming because of the fact that we live in a country where people make money they don't need and everything. If you go anywhere near this company being mentioned, his accounts, everything globally, and find more than about 3% of the value you mentioned now. 3%, I'm talking about $15 million, out of which 70% is supporting a loan of investment in this country, then confiscate everything, even confiscate everything I have in my life. If you go to this, do you know what $500 million is? $500 billion today in Nigeria is almost 300 billion naira. My entire earning while I was governor, Anambra State received, was under 500 billion, out of which I say 15%, 75 billion. That is you're talking about. I don't know where people call figures here, and that's why people try to make money they don't need. What do you need that type of money for? Why do you have to do that? The money, the trust company is there. And one of the challenges I'm going to throw today is to ask you and some other people to select 1, 2, 3, 4 persons that have foot their bill to follow the trail of this company to where it is today. And see the formation, who gave the advice, how we came to it and everything. Please, there's nothing, you wouldn't even find 5% of that, of what the figure you called anywhere. If I have $500 million, well, I don't know what I will be doing. You would have seen me building, you know how many schools and institutions I support? I've been building universities all over the place.
The answer did not quarrel. Now, Rufai asked him about his Next. This is a company Next. That he did not resign. He didn't resign from Next when he became the governor. And he did not declare his assets. He gave his detailed explanation of what happened. That was when he told that story that I posted the other day, how he became governor. Because everything was like in a hurry.
Let's talk about Next International UK. They said you didn't resign as the director, of Next, and 14 months after you became the governor, you were still director of Next. Tell us about this Next International company.
Let me tell you. Let me start. Next International we had a company in Nigeria called Next International Nigeria Limited. It's an offshoot of Next International Nigeria. That was Next International UK, which I run as managing director and everything. This company is a UK-based company. It's a brand management company that we're representative of companies like Heinz, a number of multinational companies in West Africa. And I was the CEO. And I was chairman and director of about 11 companies, even in Nigeria. I phoned all of them, said I've resigned. Not one day. I resigned.
Did you
resign
the needful
completely?
From Next? And did you also put Next in your form? Did you the asset declaration form? Did you declare Next in there and all?
When they talk about the declaration of forms, again I said, what I declared when you talk about declaration, I just told you a story now that this company is owned by Next Nigeria. Because at times they say, oh, you didn't declare. I said, no, I didn't declare one. Assets with people. I didn't declare some assets because those assets have been declared somewhere. So if I declare Next Nigeria that I own 5%, I don't have to declare another interest that Next Nigeria owns. Just like they want to say, and I didn't declare something because they were subject of things that were bought from borrowed money. If you borrow money from me and buy this suit, when they ask the owner, you have to put remark that you're owing somebody because it's not your suit. I can come to collect it tomorrow. So what I tell people is that I declare things that belong to Mr. Peter Obi. Not even Peter Obi and wife and children. You declare things. The purpose of assets is to declare. And most of the assets that are declared have been declared somewhere. So you can't declare a company. For example, I own shares in a bank with my name. I declared it. I didn't declare the one, say, Next International owes, because I've already declared my interest in Next International. It will amount to double declaration.
He was told that he invaded tax, that he did not pay tax to Nigerian government, that his purpose of setting up companies abroad is for the purpose of tax evasion, that as in like of him not paying tax to Nigerian government, and he told them, how can, if I have company in UK, I pay tax to UK government, how can I be paying tax in Nigeria of a company that is in UK? Let's hear him.
The question has been that when you set up a trust or a company overseas, do you agree with those who have been alleging that this is strictly for the purpose of tax evasion, to avoid tax due to the Nigerian government?
Ruben, I can tell you, I'm a faithful citizen of anywhere I've passed through. I cannot evade tax. It will never happen. Every investment I've done globally is legitimate and pays tax. I just shown a paper and said I live here. If you're a black man in London, you're a suspect. If you're in Nigeria, you're a double suspect. For me to live in the UK, where my bank can write here and say his account has been conducted in an impeccable manner and gives me over $7 million overdraft, Ruben, that's all. I pay my taxes. If I earn anything in the UK, I pay the UK government their tax. I own a property in London. I pay tax. I cannot come and pay property tax in Nigeria for a property I own in the UK. Money I earn here, I pay tax. Don't forget that I was subject to probe of tax about 2 years ago in Anambra State. And I showed evidence that in the past 20 years, I've consistently paid my tax and I've never paid less than 50 million naira annually. So I pay my tax. There's no issue. It's because maybe like they expected when they're talking about $500 million and they think it's about tax. No, the tax are duly paid for investment incomes as expected. Nobody, I cannot evade tax.
Now to the almighty question that everybody has been talking about, Peter Obi. You know, Rufai, always those questions or things that people, masses ask, that me and you ask in our normal way, Rufai sees you on your face and asks you the question. He was asked the question, you say you want to change this country from consumption to production. Why you are the biggest importer? Rufai asked him to his face, why you are the biggest importer, importing products in Nigeria? The bogon question, let's hear what he said.
And a lot of people keep asking, you keep talking about production, but as a businessman, you used to import a lot into this country. Those are some of the things they have against you. You talk about production, but you were a big net importer into this country. And how would you solve those legacy issues?
I'm not sure what my importation is. Let me tell you what I did, and it's not just what I did. And I always refer to Ruben because you know I've known Ruben for about 30 years. So go and ask anybody what my business is, and that's what I even study. If you go and read what I studied in Harvard is market to market management. I'm marketing. I'm a distributor. And go and ask Coca-Cola in Nigeria. Ask other people. At that time I was in business, so I was one of their biggest distributors. It's like saying Walmart. Walmart today sells goods from Vietnam, India, they don't manufacture. My job is normal. I invested in manufacturing companies, but my job is distribution. So I distribute. When I was doing business, I was selling less than a quarter, 25% of what I sell are imported goods. The rest are manufactured goods. It's a mixture. So if you go into supermarket, you see local products, you see this and everything, and I was productive. What is killing Nigeria today is wealth without enterprise. I was employing people. I was doing business. If you ask the chairman, I used to supply him even for newsprint, to drinks, to everything. So I was doing something.
But you always question, President Muhammadu Buhari's borrowing. And he said in this last budget statement that we pretty much spent our way out of a recession. What can you say about that?
Well, when people said, former minister said that they spend their way out of recession. The first thing you do when you have a recession is very simple. You have to cut your costs. You cannot continue to live the same life we lived when things were normal and when you were, of course, not borrowing, when you're borrowing. What I'm talking about borrow? Okay, you spent your way out of recession. What did you achieve? Before recession, a bag of rice, for example, is about 12,000 naira. We went into recession, and we are not out of recession, it's 30. Leave all this economics, let's deal with the reality of the ground. Things have changed. So when you say we have come out of recession, what are we? What I said is that if you must borrow when you're in recession to come out, you have to throw the money to critical areas that not just pull you out of recession, but can grow your economy and make it work. The borrowing was thrown away. Can they tell us how it was spent and come out of recession? We're not America, where people can just borrow money to consume, and because it's a developed economy. This is an economy that requires critical investment in critical areas, and money were borrowed and for consumption.
Now, see one of the toughest questions. They asked him, what do you even do? You say you're a businessman. What do you even do that you have $15 million in your account? What do you do? What type of business do you do? And Peter Obi answered, I even brought out card. He said something like ATM or so. I was showing them that they should see it. Who go do that one? How many journalists we ask Baba Tinubu say, we are saying they carry drugs? They don't go ask him, but it's only any day when he reach there, Rufai go ask him. Rufai will ask Tinubu that because that's his job. He don't fear anybody. And Peter Obi really answered. Let's hear him.
What business exactly do you do that you can afford to keep maybe $15 million in an offshore account? Well, I know what you do, but you never know.
He asked a good question. I tell the person, let me tell you, Ruben, when I came here, I brought a few things that ordinary is personal to me. I lived in England when they introduced American Express card, platinum card. I was living in England when they introduced it. And they said 5,000 people will get it. Those 5,000 people, their card showed charter member. This is my own. Showed their charter member. Member since 1987.
Can somebody use it on your behalf?
No, so I lived in England, Ruben.
I know you don't need to look at it.
Ruben, I lived in England when American Express introduced black card. And they said 1,000 persons will be issued with this card. I have it here, so charter member. To tell you my experience in this card.
You have to be
the
more
business
specific.
I'm doing.
What kind of business?
I'm telling
How
you,
did you make the money?
I'm telling you now, the business I'm doing that I was a brand and market management company that I run. I had a Heinz franchise. You can go and look. I was the sole importer of Heinz salad cream, baked beans. Just to give you an example of one company. South African breweries, who's the international breweries, I was their sole engineer. I can go on and on. I was working, bringing the Ovaltine for Novartis with another company. When I can go on and everything. In fact, to tell you what the company is, the company I was involved before, when I left and my brother took it over and paid me off, sort of became Next Cash and Carry that you see in Abuja and Port Harcourt now. So it's the same company. I was a trader. Everybody knows I was a very big trader. So I had a viable business, but went into banking. So if the person wants to know, I was sitting on board of 3 banks, could be chairman of one before I became governor. So that is also a business.
So you have shares in those banks too?
Major shares.
Major shares in those banks?
Yes.
Obi, import and export.